All set? Well, I am grateful to have so many people here on this Ash Wednesday service. You know, starting Lent is a very special time for our spiritual lives. We take these, turns out to be 47 days of Lent between now and Easter, to just take a step back and to slow our lives down and to put some principles and behaviors in our lives that may help us change just a little bit. Step number one is to acknowledge our sinfulness, and so the tone and the theme of Lent is always just a bit subdued. The music is a little bit down. The colors are not as bright. Purple is what we use. And it's a sign visually, audibly, that it's time to really own up, perhaps to our struggles. It's an invitation. But not only that, it's a time to consider what it is in our lives that perhaps we should be working on eliminating or giving up. Or perhaps another idea is, what should we bring more of into our life? Or what are some extra things that we can do? If you come from the Catholic tradition like I do, Lent was a time of great sacrifice. You always gave something up. You know, I think my parents loved Lent because we had 8 children in our family. So they always said, well, you're giving up second helpings for dinner. I think that was just their way to save money during the season. But the idea of sacrifice is no good unless it's paired with mercy. Right? What good is it for us to sacrifice something or to give up something if, on the other hand, we're not trying to grow and embrace and bring love in a different regard? As you go home tonight, I encourage you to give some thought to perhaps something you would like to do less of and something you maybe should do more of. Both subtraction and addition is what makes this Lenten season special for you as you enter it. The writing from Paul to Corinthians begins by saying we should be reconciled to God. He is writing a church, and his advice to the church is be reconciled to God. The word reconciled implicates reconciliation, which says there is a brokenness or something is wrong. If we need reconciliation, we need to fix something. If you're a bookkeeper or an accountant, you know that when you need to reconcile the books, they need to measure up on each end. You can have no discrepancies. Reconciliation in relationships, our relationship with God and our relationship with one another, it's as well about making sure that all is balanced. It's about bringing a peace and a settled atmosphere to our lives with the people around us. Paul says it should begin with a reconciliation with God. So in order to be reconciled to God, we have to first examine just what is our relationship with God. That varies from person to person. Some people, the relationship with God is intimate. That begins from the waking breath they take and awareness in the morning to the time they sleep. And all throughout, there's a conversation, a prayer, an interaction going on with this God that loves them. For others, their relationship with God may simply mean going to church on Christmas or Easter, or perhaps considering God in times of struggle or need. It runs the entire gamut. What Paul is after is that we should have a relationship with God that looks like our closest relationships on earth, but even better. Paul says, now is the time to do this. So I'm not sure how well you are or how good you are at being in conflict with people. Some people do conflict better than others. Some people seem to have a natural skill set here. They can be argumentative and in a fight with just about everyone around them, and it bothers them not. It's their default. But for other people, when you're in a conflict, you definitely know things are broken. I'm not sure if you have ever walked around in your own home, and instead of the floors being laid with plush, soft carpet, the floors are filled with eggshells that you seem to have to tiptoe around in order not to shatter them. That's a great visual image of what conflict does in relationships to our homes. That can apply outside of the home as well. And when we know we're in that kind of a conflict, we are invited to reconcile it. But Paul asks us to start first with the reconciliation from God. And so tonight, wherever your relationship is with God, I would ask, is it reconciled? Is it good? Or can it become stronger? If you are like me, then it probably needs to grow. I'm a pastor, and my relationship needs to grow with God. Maybe yours is better. But one thing I know is that through these simple imitations of Lent, through our God-signing booklet, through the hands of Lent where we can let go of and embrace, or even the prayer devotion that you wish to develop personally, there is no way you will enter those things and not become closer to God over the course of these days. And the reason it's important to establish first reconciliation with God is when we finally realize there is not one single thing that will prevent God from loving us just as we are. Nothing. There is no harm we do that is so harmful God does not still love us. There is no struggle that we have, and when we fail, that even when we fail, God does not still love us. There is no anger that we hold or resentment that God does not come on top of and still love us. This is an important part of reconciliation with God, is to realize that just as you are, just who you are, with your greatest struggles and your greatest brokenness, God says, I love you as you are. I have already forgiven you. But the problem is so many of us struggle within our own day-to-day walk that we just think there is no way God can love me. I have forgotten about God long ago. I don't pray, I get angry, I curse, I yell at God. Whatever the case may be, God still says, you don't get it. I love you just as you are. In your own human relationships, who is a person that was alive, living and breathing, that no matter what you did, they always loved you? They never gave up on you. If you have been blessed in life, then you have had at least one person who has cared for you this way. And God cares for us way more than that example. The reason God invites us to consider this reconciliation with Him and His love for us is because when we realize we are absolutely loved for who we are, it suddenly becomes that much easier to love other people. It's pretty hard to hold anger against someone when I realize all that God has forgiven of me. It's pretty hard to have petty arguments with someone when I realize all the times God has given me another chance for setbacks and failures. You see, when we understand this unconditional love, it gives us strength to share that with other people. Paul identifies that we, in fact, are going to be just like these children up here. Paul goes through this entire list of things, both good and bad in our spiritual life, and we are to sort them out and to try to place within our hands the righteousness of God. But it is up to us to try to sort through our everyday life choices as they impact people around us and as they impact our faith. Paul uses the following list to let us know we will have some struggles, but we'll also have blessings. Paul says, first, we should not put obstacles in one another's way. We should not make this life harder on one another. And he goes on to say that we commend ourselves in every way, even though we have to go through great endurance, affliction, hardship, calamities, beatings, imprisonments, riots, labors, sleepless nights, and hunger. But he goes on to add to the list, but we have purity, knowledge, patience, kindness, holiness of spirit, genuine love, truthful speech, and the power of God. We sort through our daily life with both these positive and negative impacts all around us. And we are going to fail. Regardless of our failure, God still loves us and just endearingly loves us. And through that love and forgiveness, that is our strength and encouragement to offer it to one another. In the gospel, we hear Jesus talking about humility. Be careful of practicing your piety in a way that brings attention to you. Don't be a show-off how holy you are. When giving alms, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. As pastors, we would rather, our take on this is we would rather say, if you're married, don't let your spouse know that you filled up the envelope. That way we might get two. In fact, I predicted this would happen, and in fact it did. When I went home between services, my wife and I try to give on our paydays. We give a certain amount when both of us get paid. I give an amount when it's just me getting a check. And so we try to do it that way. But I'm trying this year to use all my church envelopes, even if it's only putting in a $5, $2, or a $10 bill. I'm trying to use them all. And so today I wrote a check, not a big check, just it was a token offering today. But when I got home, she said, "Why did you write a check to church?" So I'm busted now. She didn't know that I was trying to do that. A small gift in between our tithing. You know, I'm not bragging because I certainly am not a great giver. I just know how much God has given to me. I know that I made it through seminary in an incredible way through the help of others. I know that every time something goes wrong in our home or another vehicle breaks, somehow we manage to get things paid. And I know people help us with one regard or another. There is no way I can give enough for the amount of blessings we have in our life. I'm not even trying. I'm just trying to do things like that to remind me of the many ways God has blessed us in our life. As we go through and we sort through trash and treasure, Jesus reminds us what our true treasure really is. And during the season of Lent, as we are encouraged to let go and embrace some things, searching for the real treasure in life, we are reminded that treasure is not found truly in this life and in this earth. Jesus uses the monetary things, don't store up for yourself gold and silver and money where moths rot and thieves steal, but rather build up for yourself treasures in heaven that can never be taken away. It closes with a simple statement: where your treasure is, there your heart is also. During this season of Lent, we are encouraged to remember that our treasure is God's love and grace. Our treasure is Christ. Our treasure is His grace and forgiveness. It's not who we are. It's not what we do. It's not what we give. It's not the good things of our life, and it's not the bad. It is God's love and grace. This season, I invite you to use the tools we've provided, to take an opportunity to pray, but most of all, to remember God truly wants to be reconciled in your life with you. Most of all, so that you know you are loved unconditionally just as you are. Because from that acceptance of peace, our life begins to become much easier with others around us. Amen. I invite you to rise as we sing our sermon hymn.